All right, guys, welcome back. Sideline Stories. Got a special on. We got Jack Jenkins, UFC fighter, fighting this weekend in the UFC. Welcome, mate. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for coming,
We've
mate.
been teeing this up for a while, mate, and it's good to actually finally be in the presence and finally meet you, mate. So thank you for coming on.
No, you're welcome, 100%. I said I've been going to come up to Sydney for a while. There was one we were trying to come up when I was doing some media stuff a few months ago, and it just didn't work out. So now I'm wrapped. We get it done.
Yeah,
100%. Long time coming, but at least we can get it in. Fight week, it's huge. I know you're a very, very busy man.
Yeah.
So what's it like so far? Like hectic schedule, I'm sure.
Yeah, full on schedule. Fly up Tuesday. Media commitments all Tuesday afternoon. Yesterday, full day of media, plus you're fitting your training in and stuff. And then today I had a little bit of time, and I've got you guys, and I did another podcast earlier this morning with Tommy Papley, and
Lovely.
And then after this one, I'm pretty much done, and then I got to start cutting weight, which is not the funnest thing in the world to do, but I actually don't struggle too much with it, and it's part of the process. So
with the cutting weight, is it like the old jockey trick? Is it getting the shower hot and then getting the exercise bike out, or what does it entail?
Like similar. It just depends on your preference. Like some people like to sauna, some people like to run the start of their weight off, some people like to sit on a bike. Me personally, I like to change it up a little bit. So I always try and get down to a certain weight the night before the weigh-in, just so I know I don't have like a massive day the next day. So like I'll try and get a kilo off tonight or something like that with just. Like, I won't even struggle. I'll just put a jumper and pants on and move around, hit some pads, sit on a bike for 20 minutes, and that'll do that. And then tomorrow I'll wake up and, do the last 2.5, 3 kilos.
What about food-wise, like this week? What do you like? Do you have to plan out all your meals come like fight week, obviously?
Yeah,
so what?
Should be a bag over there. I get my meals delivered every morning.
Yeah, nice.
I've got a dietitian, and a team, and they have a chef. So the dietitian tells the chef what to make, the chef cooks it, and then it all gets delivered to me. So I don't.
Beauty, nice and easy.
Yeah.
What's it like with that compared to back in the day when you're on the local scene? I'm sure you were cooking it all yourself.
Mate, 100%. Like that's people ask about fight week, and by the time I get to fight week, now that I'm in the UFC, you look forward to it. Like you get to do fun stuff like this. Your days are planned out for you. Everything you need is at your fingertips. Like they try and make it as easy as they possibly can for you. And like back in the day, it was like, wake up, you're cutting weight already, you run to Coles, you got to buy your eggs, you're cooking, you're sitting by yourself, there's no media, nothing to do, so you're just going over the fight and the weight cut in your head.
Just clock watching.
Constantly. And like I had fight weeks that, like looking back on, honestly felt like 3 weeks. Like 7 days just feels like 3 weeks. Whereas now, by the time it gets to Tuesday, we're at Thursday already. Tomorrow I weigh in, and then I fight on Sunday. Like it goes like that.
Yeah,
which is good. And I'm getting better every time I fight, and particularly in the UFC, of just taking it in your stride and enjoying it. Like you can kind of like even example of doing something like this. This is something that out of fight week I would enjoy. In the past, you kind of limit yourself where you go, I don't want to do stuff I enjoy or like take my focus away from the fight or anything like that. And I just found that made me so much worse. I was like, you think you spend enough time thinking about the fight in the lead up and everything anyway, why would you abstain from doing things you would enjoy during fight week? Like, it's not going to affect my performance or my training or my weight cut. What's the problem? So now I'm just, I'm enjoying the whole experience a lot more as I've matured into it.
That's good, because I'm sure a few guys would probably be pretty full on. They'd be, nobody talk to me, let me focus whole week. I want to be in my element, in my zone.
Especially those big boys that are trying to really cut weight and then really try and rehydrate.
For sure. And like I don't cut a small amount of weight. Like I'm on the higher end of the scale, but I'm probably so my dietitian does like 4 world champions. He does like a heap of guys on the UFC roster, and he says that I'm tied number 1 or number 2 of like best weight cutters. Like
nice.
In terms of doesn't complain, gets the weight off quick, is professional in it. So it's not that I cut a small amount of weight. It's just that I have a good system.
Yeah.
Nice. Like you guys just met Jacob. So Jacob's my mate, and he fights as well on the amateur scene. And he's every fight I just fly him with me, and he hangs out with me. So like you have that familiarity. Like he knows what to do. So I get up and I start cutting weight. He's getting things set up. He's getting this done. He's getting that done. So I don't even have to think. So I'm pretty lucky. I've got a great team around me, and yeah, it is what it is.
Be nice prep for him as well, because I'm sure his goal's up ultimately to get to here. So
yeah, exactly.
at least he gets to see how it all works.
100%. And when it's his turn, like I'll go when he fights anywhere, I go with him.
Yeah,
and
beauty.
we do the same thing, so it's good. You want to just kind of minimize too many outside inputs,
noise and stuff.
Yeah, like little things like I remember back in the day, if I was like a couple of days out from a weight cut, and somebody would be like, "Oh, geez, you all right? Like, you don't look well," and it's like, "Fuck you!" Like, that's
just what you don't need.
And then you go home and you're like, "Fuck, am I too skinny? Like, am I going to struggle to make the weight?" And you get in your head. I know all fighters go through this shit. I've spoken to everyone about it, and it's all the same. Whereas you just want people around who have been there before, who know how to work it, who know the right things to say or not say at the right times, and then just get it done.
Is that what you find, like, especially with the weight cutting, it's not necessarily physically as hard as it's more like mentally challenging, you reckon?
For sure. So, like, you know the old saying, like, fear of cold water is always greater than the actual experience of cold water?
Yeah.
Like, if you're about to get in an ice bath, you're like, fuck. And then you get in, you're like, it wasn't that bad. Cutting weight is the same. And I've had some bad weight cut experiences and some really cruisy ones. The good thing is I've never, ever struggled really hard to get to featherweight. Like, every time I've ever gone to featherweight, it's easy. I've tried to go to bantam once, and that was a fucking horrific experience.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's just lock in, don't complain, keep your positive mindset, and get through it.
I'm sure the morning you wake up, okay, time to weigh in, like, you'd feel pretty fucking depleted, eh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%. Like, you guys will see me on the scale and you go, fuck, he doesn't look like that normally. Like, even, like, if you saw me 4 weeks ago, you would look at me now and go, wow, you look a lot thinner. It's just like I've been dropping weight naturally through fight camp anyway, and now I'm sort of depleting myself as I go.
Like, I just want to ask, because you're all depleted come scales time, how much actually goes back in before you make the cage? Because I know that it's a
lot. So my last fight, I weighed in at 145 pounds. And when I got on the bus to go to the venue, I was 166 pounds.
Jesus.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, no,
what's that in, like, kilos? Because, like, obviously...
So 66 kilos was what I weighed in at.
Yeah.
And what's 166? 166 is like 75.
Yeah, wow.
Okay.
Jesus.
What, in a
and
day
that's
and a half?
overnight, whereas now for this one, I've got 2 nights.
Yeah.
So I weigh in Friday, fight Sunday. So I've got 2 nights.
Yeah.
The challenge for me this time will be try not to get too big.
Yeah, fair enough.
You want to ideally you want to fight at the weight you spend all your time sparring and training at during fight camp, right?
So it feels natural.
Yeah, so I spend most of my training during fight camp training between 74 and 75.
Yeah.
That's usually that sweet spot where I feel really good if I wake up in between that. So I'll try and get the weight off and get back in between that mark.
Yeah, nice.
Is it? I'm sure it wouldn't be dirty bulk sort of thing. So how do you get it all in? What sort of foods, and is it just plenty of liquid?
Yeah, liquids mostly is where the weight comes from, but foods, it's all dietitian stuff. So, like, they measure down to the gram of carbs, gram of salt, gram of sugar. So I get like a schedule. I get an A4 piece of paper, and it'll be like, first half hour this, second half hour this. After that, have a little snack, see how your stomach feels, then go this the half hour after that. And you've got like the full blocked out. Usually the first 12 hours are pretty thing, and then after that you get a bit of like, eat what you would normally, like eat what makes you feel good. But my rule is every Friday when I spar, I eat the same things and I try and do the same thing the night before. So I do that before a fight. So after I've rehydrated and stuff, what do I eat the night before sparring? I'll eat that the night before. What do I eat the morning of sparring? I'll eat that again, and then just try and replicate how you feel there.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then moving into the fight, how are you feeling going in against your opponent, obviously? So how are you feeling?
Really good. No, I had a good camp. I was strong and fit coming back from America. So it was just about maintaining that fitness and trying to correct a few errors that were made in the last fight, which is, what you try and do every time. Just, I'm super critical of myself after every fight. Like, even my best performance is like, I should have done this, I should have done that, which I think is I think that's a fairly common thread among elite athletes, is always looking at something to fix. So we thought we addressed those things really well, and now just excited for this fight.
From the research I've done, because I'm not too familiar on your opponent, but the word on the street is you're very similar in the styles you go about it. You're both kickboxers, aren't you?
Yeah.
So without giving too much away, like, what do you think, how are you going to get on top of him?
So it's important for me not to get involved in like a car crash, we call it. So some fighters, so he probably isn't as clean as me technically, right? So he doesn't have the same feinting, he doesn't have the same crispness in his striking. So what he'll try and do is just come forward and create a car crash with me. So he'll swing a lot and then hope that I just swing back. And then it's just like, who's got the puncher's chance there. And he's obviously really good at doing that.
Yeah.
So the thing for me is just going to be, be on the front in the car crash, so don't get pushed back too much, but don't engage in it. Stay on the outside, pick him apart with my jabs and my teep kicks, and then once that car crash dissipates, because you can't make a car crash for 3 rounds, you just can't do it. You get a few minutes, maybe 3 minutes, and then after that it goes back to just a fight where we're standing in front of each other.
100%.
So when we get back to that range on the outside, just pick him apart.
Fair enough. And with the leg kick, like obviously, was it 5 out of the last 7 you've broken the legs?
Yeah, 5 or 4. 5 or 4.
Jeez, you'll be hearing that a lot this week as well.
Yeah,
that's another thing that's going.
Yeah, and I had some guy like, I don't know if you saw the dabble ad, and some guy commented, he's like, "This guy's never broken a leg."
Oh, I did see that.
This is bullshit. And I'm like, mate, like I'm literally friends with the guys I've fought, and they like put up Instagram stories like, "Yeah, I broke my leg." Like,
I actually saw. What did he say? He was like, "Oh, yeah, he kicks one guy's leg and he tells him that he broke it, and that's all that's happened."
Yeah,
and I'm like, and then I saw Double commented back as well, like, "All right, champ."
And then, like, the other ones, it's like, my coach is friends with my opponent's coach, and my coach, their coach is at the hospital after the fight, like, "Yeah, we're here. He's broken his leg." Like, and it's like, well, I'm not just fucking going around. I'll break the legs, boys. Like, there's some ones where people like have incorrectly reported for sure, like, "Oh, you broke this leg," when I didn't, even though I kicked the leg hard. It was like, that leg didn't break or whatever. But yeah, it's a good moniker to have, and I hope that what happens is people go into fights with me and they think, "Oh, this guy's going to kick my leg," because as soon as somebody's thinking about what I'm going to do instead of what they're going to do, I'm already in the lead.
Because is that something that just comes to you into the cage? Like, you're not going in like, I'm just going to target the leg. It's just if it opens up, just kick.
I had it as a plan for one fight, to be honest. But other than that, it's just if it's there, I'll hit it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, it's such an asset that's been working. I just want to move back into Perth here. My brother actually went to the fight you met before, and he sent me a Snapchat, and holy fuck, you kicked that leg hard. I could hear the slap through the phone. I was wearing headphones, and I tell you now, it's so loud. What about the crowd that day at Perth? How loud was that? Could you hear it, or were you just in your own little world?
Well, so I've spent a lot of time as I got towards the UFC, like trying to find my like where I perform at my peak. And where I perform at my peak is like if I walk out and I enjoy that moment with the crowd and like sort of feed off their energy. And then as soon as I get to the cage and start getting vassed up, then sort of block that out. And I've been able to do that really well. So Perth was like so big for me in that walked out in front of my family, friends, home crowd. The crowd went ballistic when I walked out. And then when I got to the cage, I was able to just shut it off. So I didn't hear anything from the crowd during the fight. And then I just enjoyed it again on the way out.
That's crazy. So it's like to you, it just sounded the same as if you were in the gym in the middle of Melbourne.
Yeah, it's white
sort
noise.
of thing.
It's white noise.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
My coaches.
Yeah. Oh, fair. That's a good point. And then also during that fight, there was a lot of like stoppages. You're getting kicked in the balls and stuff. Is that like distracting? Do you reckon? Or like because it happened twice in that one.
Yeah,
didn't
you want to stay present. So it is and it's not. Like it's part of like you get kicked in sparring too, and you have to like adjust and keep going. So it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, no, because I definitely when I was watching it, I was like, holy fuck, he's 2 in a row. You're like, surely that can't be good, and it's fucking annoying me. I know it probably would have annoyed you as well.
I've been kicked in the balls in like my last 3 fights.
Yeah,
and it's because I switch stances so much.
Yeah.
So my left leg's forward, and they'll go to kick, and in their head they're thinking to kick that leg, and I've already switched stances. So then my dick is facing right where the leg is, and that sort of thing. And then there was one in the last fight where it was a knee coming up, and the knee, like the foot just kind of extended underneath the knee, and the shin just went straight up.
Jesus Christ!
And then we'll move all the way back now. So you obviously how did it come about? So I know your brother started as a kickboxer. Is that where you kind of started getting into your fight game, or is it somewhere else that started?
Yeah, so my brother was a kickboxer, and I used to say, come up to the gym or whatever, and I think I was like about 13, and I was a little bit chubby, I reckon, and I was just like, oh, well, I'll go up, and he was loving it, so he took me up, and I just fell in love like instantly. Like similar to like I imagine there's kids who play a game of soccer and they kick a goal and they're just like, yeah, this is me.
It's me for
I'm a
life.
soccer guy.
Yeah.
And I went up. I remember the first time I sparred, and I definitely wasn't winning the sparring match, but like I would land a shot and I'd be like,
this is fun.
This is fun. Like, this is so enjoyable. And then I found myself going home and thinking about it, and then I just went, you know what, this is what I want to do. And I never wanted to be a kickboxer. I always wanted to be in the UFC.
Yeah.
So just applied my trade at kickboxing growing up and staying there. And then when I was sort of 16, a jiu-jitsu gym opened in Melton, which is 15 minutes away from us. And I went down there and then started adding it all together.
Fair enough. Usually if there's a footy player on, we'll ask him many, backyard rugby games on. But in your case, two brothers are kickboxers, many backyard scraps happen, break out?
We scrapped a bit. Probably not as much as you would think because like you do, like we sparred.
Yeah.
So like I always knew growing up, fucking Ben would flog me. Like he was older than me and a lot better. Like he was so talented. He was such a good kickboxer. So I was like, I was never going to try and scrap him.
Yeah.
He was like, no,
so there's that little brother aspect where you're like, all right.
More verbal.
Put the pads on, I'll spy you. But stay the fuck away from me if you get mad.
Exactly. It was a non-issue. We had a couple of scraps, but nothing too big.
And you played a bit of rugby as well. Was it union or league?
Union.
Okay.
Yeah. So I played Aussie rules, and then I was just no good. So I swapped over to rugby, and I enjoyed that a lot better. I always used to get caught holding the ball in footy because I always used to try and take everyone on. Yeah. So in rugby, you don't have that problem. So I was happy enough.
Well, that's interesting because is union even played that much down in Melbourne? I was going to say
we didn't think so. That's why we assumed leagues. Not even leagues played a lot down there.
It's probably the same as in Sydney, right? Like private schools play union.
Yeah. It's probably the AFL in Sydney equivalent to union in Melbourne. So
was it through school or local club?
Yeah, through school.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, nice. And then as we move through, I know you really want to see this.
So like I heard on another podcast you did that you'd sleep on the floor of the gym when early days to make sure you're always ready to go and ready to train if you needed to be trained at a short notice instead of driving back home. So what was that like?
Yeah, like the one common thread between most fighters, unless you have the privilege of having really wealthy parents, which I didn't, or some benefactor who can help you out, is that if you're in the AFL and you get drafted, like what's your base salary is getting drafted? 70?
Yeah, about that now,
right? So plus you have like your physio's done, all that extra stuff you need, your conditioning training, food, like you're set, right? So your ability when you come into the game as an 18-year-old there is it's all on you, right? If you do the work and stuff, there's no factors. Whereas for every fighter, when you make that choice to be a professional, it's like I've got to support myself financially. I'm not going to make any money from fighting until I get to the UFC. Yeah. If I get to the UFC, and even when I get to the UFC, it's not great money to start either way. So like it's quite a daunting prospect, but I always thought I had the ability to get here and, the discipline to make it happen. So I was never worried about whether the money came, and I've never really been hugely driven by money. It's just like my parents aren't like that. It's not who I am. Yeah. But at the start I was I lived in Bacchus Marsh because apartments in Melbourne are so expensive to rent. There was just no way I could afford it. So I didn't even have a car. I used to catch the train to training in the morning, train from 10 till 12, then catch a train home, then train in the afternoon at my home gym in Melton from sort of 3 till 4:30 or something like that. And then I would go down to the pub and pull beers and serve meals and Palmers and shit until 11:30.
Palmy up here, bro.
I used to be the tab attendant.
That's where it started, eh?
And so it was tough, and like I think I just told someone yesterday, I had like my 5 tax returns before last year when I got into the UFC. Like I didn't have one tax return over 25 grand.
Oh wow!
Okay.
And then eventually my first car, I was lucky, like again privileged in the sense that like my sister-in-law, my brother's partner, is a doctor, and she bought a new car and gave me her one that she'd had when she was a teenager, right? 100%. So then I'm like, fuck yeah, I got a car. It was like a Holden Barina, like 1999 or something.
Lovely. Very threatening.
Yeah, loved it. But so then what I started doing was I would drive on like a Monday, and I'd have a packed bag. I'd have all my food with me, everything organized. Drive down on a Monday, sleep at the gym in my coach's office on like a couch or the floor. We ended up getting a mattress. Then I'd wake up train in the morning, train in the afternoon, and then I would go home, sort of replenish the kit, stay at home one night, and go back in, sleep again, and that sort of thing. So it was when people ask about it, it's like it sounds a lot rougher than it is. Like it's once you get into a routine, humans are so adaptable, right? Like you just get comfortable doing it. So I would have like a routine that would be nice for me. I'd train in the night, I'd shower, I'd go, I'd have my iPad next to me, I'd watch a bit of TV, I'd eat, go to bed. So it wasn't that bad. But looking back on it now, I'm glad I've got an apartment in the city. I walk 500 meters to the gym and then walk home.
So it was never at any point you're like, fuck this, like it's not worth it. You were just always, it's part of the grind. That's just the way it has to be.
100%. And people would say, like, be like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm sleeping at the gym. And they'd be like, fuck, what are you doing? Like, that's my phase. And I'd be like, oh, it's character building.
Yeah. And what was it like? I reckon now it's a bit different, but probably when you were 18, you didn't have all these Australian fighters walking around. Like, you didn't really have Volk or Whitaker or Ty or yourself. Like, I reckon if an 18-year-old's doing it now, their parents can see that, all right, Australia's starting to come in. Even the UFC wasn't as built as it is. It was probably just starting to rise just
like
then.
Before the McGregor era, before the Rousey era.
How did,
so it was very much more diehard, less mainstream.
Yeah, so how did your parents take that you wanted to push so hard to get into this thing that was so probably not mainstream yet?
Yeah, like two very different reactions. So my dad was quite like hard on us as kids, but he was never hard like, you have to do really well here, you have to go into this field. Like, he was never restrictive like that. He always just like respected if you tried, like effort. So like, he loved watching me play rugby because I always tried really hard. I loved it. I trained hard, that sort of stuff. And as soon as I said I'm going to go to the UFC and I'm going to fight, and he saw like the dedication and the time I put into training, he was just like, sweet mate, like do it, go for it, because that's like your purpose. Like you're doing something you love, you're grinding and that sort of stuff. And he hasn't changed on that. Like, he flies everywhere to watch me fight now and that sort of stuff. Mum, super supportive from a distance. Like, she can't watch. She
I know she likes all your comments.
Yeah,
she likes our comments.
We were trying to chase. We're like, well, we haven't got his attention, but his mum knows who we are.
This podcast will go up, and she'll comment. She'll be like, great job, boys. Thanks for interviewing him. Like, she loves it.
Just a classic mum, That's the same with our mum. They'll be watching as well.
Yeah.
So.
Every Facebook post that goes up, she's like, good content, boys.
Exactly. Which is nice. So, yeah, pretty lucky in that regard that both of them, neither of them had a problem with it. Mum, like, just stresses, but mum's going to stress if you're a fucking bus driver, you know what I mean? Like,
100%.
If it's late when you drive, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. She'll find a way to worry.
And then we move. What was your reaction into finally getting signed by the UFC? Obviously, that's all that. Is that your like point where you're like, I've made it, or did you think there was a bit more?
It's a funny one because it's not I've made it, but it's definitely like it was a great feeling. Like I say, when I walked out at Perth, it made every sleep on the gym at the floor, every run late at night, every meal you skip to make weight, all that sort of stuff became instantly worth it the moment I walked out at UFC Perth. But that didn't mean I'm like satisfied there. It was like, I've still got a lot of work to do to get where I want to be. But it was just like, all right, you did it. You got here. Now time to show the world what you're really capable of.
That's awesome.
And this one comes from the Dabble UFC King, Cammy Smooth.
Yeah.
He wanted to make sure he could just ask a question. He wanted to know, along that line from, local scene to UFC Perth, what was the fight that made you think, okay, yeah, I'm on for the UFC here. I can hack it.
I can hack it. Yeah, right. I believed it from like my first fight. And I'm not just saying that like to be like, oh, he's a confident guy, but I genuinely thought, because I was training with some guys who were in the UFC already, and I know, and my coach has always said I was good at certain things, and you have a certain knack to pick up techniques. Like we would do a technique in a class, I'd get shown it once, we would go roll, and I'd be able to perform it like live, like with resistance against a partner, and they'd be like, fuck, like this kid picks things up quick. So I always believed it, but probably like the fight for me where I went like, I absolutely deserve to be there now was when I lost to Jesse Medina in my fourth fight, and he was ranked number 2 in the country, and it was only my fourth fight. So I stepped up a lot to fight him, and he submitted me in the second round. And then 3 or 4 years later, I had won the national title, and I wanted to rematch him for my first defense because I wanted to get that loss back.
Yeah.
And I broke his leg in that fight and finished him in the second round. So he finished me in the second round. Then I went and finished him in the second round. And that was the fight for me where I went like, I'm not the same young kid I was. Like I'm I'm the guy coming into my prime now, and I'm ready for the UFC.
With your 2 career losses, obviously they were back to back. How did you use that as like motivation? Because it would have been hard as a young kid to take that on. Like, how did you use that to fuel you to keep going?
Yeah, I was really lucky. I had good coach, like Andy, who you just met, my striking coach. He kind of said to me, he's like, you have all the ability, you just can't put it together in the cage. Like, the guy you are at training is not the same guy who gets in the cage. So he goes, what I think we should do is let's take a year off competing MMA, have some kickboxing fights, do more grappling tournaments, because I'd never competed as an individual. I'd always only done team sports, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, you need to get comfortable competing as an individual and being able to translate what you do in the gym to the cage.
Yeah.
So we did. We took the 12 months off. I trained my ass off the whole time, but had like a kickboxing fight, had boxing sparring against really high level boxers, did 5 or 6 grappling competitions where you have like 5 or 6 matches in a day, that sort of thing.
Shit.
Yeah, and just getting comfortable, like training, competing, and then I came back from that and we're 9 in a row.
Yeah,
lovely. And throughout it, I just want to. Very rarely do I hear you say the word if. Like, the old saying, no if, buts, or maybes, only absolutes. Almost every bit of media I've heard you go, okay, when I win on the weekend, when I win at Contender Series, when I make the UFC, when I sign my new contract, I am going to be a big player. It's not, if I win, then I'll hopefully renegotiate, and I'm hoping to be, ranked down the line. It's always, this is what's going to happen. So where does that mental toughness, self-belief come from? Like, and how does it maintain? Does you've had it all your life, or it's just self-confidence you got to sort of put on?
I've always been like confident, like my cousins and aunties and uncles and everyone will tell you, like I've always just been like a confident kid, like talk, like when I was young I was really happy having conversations with adults, like as a kid, some kids who talk to you and you're like
yeah.
And that sort of thing. But the confidence there, like honestly, it's a bit of fake it till you make it. Like if you walk around and like I had this conversation with my coach this week about cutting weight for the week. If I walk around and I'm like, oh, this sucks, I'm hungry, I feel shit, it's self-fulfilling, right? I will feel hungry, I will feel shit, I will not enjoy the week. Whereas if I walk around and I go, pretty lucky to be here, happy to be here, let's do it, then that will probably be my attitude, and that will be how I recall the week and how I feel at the time. So it's the same thing with my fights. It's like I'm acutely aware that I can go out there and lose a fight. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm acutely aware that I haven't signed a new contract and I could go out there and not perform well on Sunday, and then I've shot myself in the foot. But they're the decisions you make, and if you're comfortable with the worst case scenario, then you're free to just go for it anyway. And I'm comfortable. Like I know who I am inside and outside of fighting, so I'm okay. My whole identity isn't tied in the fact that I'm this fighter and I'm this UFC guy. I've got a good family. I've got a good partner. I know who I am, so I'm free to say those things, and that's what I believe is going to happen. But if it doesn't, fuck, shit happens. Like I'm still me.
Fantastic attitude to have, because I know so many other people would be complete opposite end of the scale.
Yeah, and with the UFC these days, you kind of see half the battle is actually like fighting. It's a lot of like selling the fight as
selling
well,
the tickets
and selling the tickets. Do you find that you have to be a personality as well, or is that just comes with it and just naturally, like just the way you're talking?
Yeah, I think one thing you have to be is genuine. Like, you have to be the person that you are in day-to-day life in front of the cameras.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you can't lean into parts of your personality that are more interesting and more sellable.
Yeah.
Like, there's a part of me that's like a fucking mope who, isn't very interesting and likes to sit on the couch and do fuck all. But that's not very endearing or sellable. And there's parts to me that loves the racing, loves going out with the boys, loves playing golf, all the sort of stuff that people find endearing, like people like it. And when it comes to selling fights, I'm just trying to be as authentic as I can to myself, but to the parts that I think will sell well. Like I don't. You don't need to talk. You don't need to talk about shit that no one wants to hear about. You can be vanilla. It's really easy as a fighter to fall into being vanilla. Right? Because you're like, you get asked a question and you're like, what's the best way to answer this? And you're like, whatever. Yeah, whatever the UFC gives me, whoever's next, I'm just happy, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, that's the answer. That's the easiest answer. The harder answer is to say what you actually think or what you want and put yourself out there. Like, it's easy to say certain things, but for me, it's like, you say you're going to win. It's like, I'm putting it all online. I'm going to win. I'm going to win this way. I'm going to renegotiate my contract. I'm going to be top 15. And then that's harder because you're going out there, and then if you lose, you know you're going to get the comments like, "Oh, he was talking about top 15. He couldn't even beat this fucking guy." Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I'm going to get that shit anyway. So fuck, I might as well say what I want to do, say how I'm going to get there, and then go for it.
So yeah, as you said before, mate, you worked in the tab at the pub, like you said. So how you fell in love with horse racing? How did that come about?
So my nana took me to Moonee Valley when I was a kid, and sort of grew up. My brother was involved with horses a little bit, not race riding, but just general pony club type stuff.
Yeah.
So grew up a little bit around horses, but really fell in love with the racing side of thing when my nana took me to Moonee Valley, and I just loved it. Before I'm probably one of the rare ones with I kind of fell in love with it before I fell in love with punting. Like I genuinely loved the stories, like, and the romance of it, of like, the Mackay Divas. Like I was probably, how old was I? Like 10 when Mackay Diva was coming through. And obviously Melbourne Cup's so big, used to watch those. And then a little bit older and we had So You Think, and I'm like, oh, I love this horse, So You Think. And then you go through, and I ended up where one day I was in class, and this lady named Tracy, she was like a teacher's aide in the class. And I was talking to someone, and they were asking me like who won every Melbourne Cup, like back to like 1907, and I was like, oh, Might and Power this year, fucking this year, and I can't do it anymore actually, but I used to be able to do it. And then she goes, oh, you really like horse racing? I'm like, yeah, I love it. And she goes, my husband's a jockey, and we train horses out on our farm. And I said, oh, you're kidding? And she's like, do you want to come do work experience on our farm?
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So on school holidays, I went out there and learned how to strap horses, would take him off him when he'd finish the track work, bring him back into the shed to the strappers to wash down, that sort of stuff. And just like that made me more engrossed with it and enjoyed it even more. And then obviously, as you get a bit older, you start to like to punt as well, and just love doing form, love trying to find an edge. And it's like, I'm a big advocate for like gambling responsibly, and, recognizing that punting is like just entertainment value.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not investing. It's not like follow Jack's tips because he knows what he's talking about. It's like, no, this is entertainment for Jack. He enjoys it. But I do have so much fun, like getting up with one of my mates, Toddy or Whitey, and on a Saturday morning, grabbing a coffee before we go to Flemington, and like looking over the form and being like, what do you reckon here?
It's
this was
fun.
huge last round, blah, blah, blah. Just that gets me going. And then now as I've my profile's gotten a little bit bigger, it's opened up opportunities for me to, exploit the fact that I do follow the racing really close.
Yeah. I reckon it's a pretty similar story to us, because we're like only 21 coming into it, and we used to watch racing obviously through our old man's, like they loved the racing, and then we've learnt it, and now we've started our business and our podcast through it, and we love it.
Because I can go to the track and not have a single bet and just watch.
Oh, 100%.
I was doing a presentation to a lot of international students at uni last week, and I was like, me personally, like each their own opinion, but like one of the best sounds in the world, the thunder of the hooves going down the straight.
Yeah.
Like
I go watch track work at like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, really?
I'll just go watch horses work at Moonee Valley.
Yeah, no.
It's like I'll be one of the only people in the stands at Rosehill Trials, just because I want to if I've got a free morning, I'll go down, I'll see which horse is looking good.
Working well. Yeah, and actually, like, I love trying to find them in the yard, like seeing who looks a bit fired up, or see if I can lay a favourite that's not looking good or something like that. Yeah. And last year I had one of my best days on it was Cox Plate Day, where I backed like I reckon 6 winners and a second or something like that. But one of the best days I've ever had. And I'd gone to breakfast with the best on the Tuesday and just tried to pick out the ones that I thought looked really good in track work. And whether I was on the money there, I was a bit lucky or whatever. I don't know, I'm still going to tell
you were good.
You'll take it.
There was a guy who's like a racing.com presenter. His name's Matty, and I did his radio show. And then after the radio show, I sent him all my notes. I said, like, this for this race, this for this race. And then he came back to me on the day after the race. He goes, Matt, you've picked a car.
Yeah.
And then he's like, you can actually spot him. And then he's organised some stuff for me. So it was pretty good.
Yeah. And then we've seen you've commented on our post, a bit of banter going around about Zaki.
Yeah. I'm just a huge Zaki.
Big Zaki.
Obviously an emotional attachment. So don't take me back in Zaki for any kind of form.
But why do you think we've been on nature strip every start, even since he's gone backwards?
But look, the thing with Zaki is I just love the horse. I was deep on him to win the Cox Plate when he got scratched the year Anna Moen stayed arrested. And you know, I just love the story. Annabelle Nisham's first like big horse as a trainer and how quickly she rose through the ranks. It's great. And probably my favourite thing ever was I was a big Zaki fan all last year and the year before, and then backed him in the All-Star Mile when he won it. And then me and my dad went to Champion Stakes Day, and we had a spring like punters club, just me and him. And he's like, "Don't tell me how much is in it. Like, let's just figure it out, whatever." And then we got to the last day, and we'd had a couple of bets, and we weren't going great on Stakes Day. And I said, "Dad, this is like, it's the end of spring, so we're either leaving with some cash or we're not."
Nah, 100%.
And he goes, "All right, are we going to back Zaki?" And I said, "Well, not yet." I said, "Let's watch the Champions Mile, and if Alligator Blood goes to the front on the rail and leads and wins, we'll put everything on Zaki."
Yeah.
Because if that race pattern is there for him, he'll take
it. Carbon copy.
Yeah, and all we just needed him to run a good tempo, because that's his thing. He's not a big turn of foot horse. He runs people into the ground. So we went, and I went, right, so I've gone across like 4 different bookies and put a fair bit of cash on Zaki. And he's come down, and I reckon somehow like it's just got around the rooftop at the members that like everyone's getting on Zaki.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it turns the corner, and they've been running quick sectionals, and I'm like, he's going to bury him here. And he kicked 2 lengths clear at the turn, and I went, fuck, he's gone. And I started cheering like early. Like, I'm like, my mate who was on with us, like, he's gotten up on the chairs, and he's like yelling, he's like, "Go on, the big boy." And then he ended up winning by half a length in the end. And just one of the best memories, me and my dad going off, the whole rooftop erupting, and like closing out the spring like that. And my old man was walking around the rest of the night. He had his suit jacket on, and he had $100 notes as his pocket square. He's just like had him sitting there, and I was like, "Mum, come get that." So it was a good day, and obviously memories like that. I hope that he comes back, and I think he needs a little bit lighter load this year in the lead up. So hopefully maybe 1 or 2 more runs than the Cox Plate. I don't want to see him run in the Underwood and the Mackay. And then Cox Plate into the Champion Stakes, and I hope the Cox Plate is a grand final for a lot of those guys, and it's his grand final. I'd like to see him just lead at the Cox Plate. Don't run him into the ground though. Just get the fitness in, and then 2 weeks later have a bit of time off and just bury him in the Champions, and then retire.
Don't mind.
Yeah, I agree. You're the only one to win 3 stakes.
Yeah, so that's the same with Nature Shoot. We talked about it on our podcast yesterday. We like absolutely adore the horse. I've never not backed it in the 3 years since I turned 18. I always backed it, except for last week actually. But geez, I wish they retired him as soon as he got back from Ascot. Yeah, I reckon
he didn't need to go again. He didn't.
He had nothing to prove.
As soon as he faded in the Everest, he should have been done.
Yeah, I agree.
But maybe after Ascot, give him the Everest again, because it's such a big race. Because he had potential to win that, and everyone did think he was going to win that. But after that Everest, there was no need.
Yeah, and I can see the allure for the owners and stuff. And if he was presenting well in the yard and the paddock and everything, I can see how they go give him a couple more runs. But
especially as a gelding,
it was clear after the weekend. Wrap it up. But what a champion.
Yeah,
it's like me with Very Elegant. I was crying when I found out she was going to Europe.
I can't believe that was one of the worst decisions, I think.
Because I was like, she can do Europe. And then the Queen Elizabeth Stakes happened and went, oh my God, don't take her. And Chris Waller said, we're not taking her. And the owners went, no, we're going to take her.
Yeah, that was the big thing is like if Waller had said, off day, we did some things wrong in the prep, she's missed up here, but she's still good to go, you would go, sweet. But when the owners go, we're taking her off you and we're taking her overseas, it's like, I don't know. I don't agree with that. Just like, it brings me back to, I was so shattered when they sold So You Think out from Bart. They took So You Think off Bart and took him over David O'Brien. And that wasn't the same circumstance because he went over there and won like, 5 fucking Group 1s in Europe in staying races against the best in the world. So he was a freak. But I still thought like, don't take him off Bart in that way. Like he 100% would have won 3 Cox Plates. Maybe 4, right? They probably would have retired him after the 3rd and sent him to stud anyway. But like Seamus Award won the Cox Plate the year after, So You Think, like he was a maiden. There was just no depth in that race. He would have won 3 for
100%,
sure.
100%. And me and Cash have had a bit of an argument about this. Kind of putting you on the spot here, but can you name your top 5 horses in Australia currently?
Right now, yeah, absolutely. Number 1, I Wish I Win.
Yeah.
Even after the weekend, I think he was brilliant. I thought he got checked and lost a couple of strides. He would have gone past Mr. Brightside, I think. Not his best distance and had no right to be there with the gate and the way the track played. Mr. Brightside, number 2.
Yeah.
can't argue with what he's
100%.
done. Number 3, Amelia's Jewel.
Yeah.
I think she's a phenomenal racehorse. I'm really looking forward to seeing her over in the spring and kind of break that kind of West Australian horse stigma.
I'm laughing.
Exactly
we'll get to it
I'll
later.
let you finish, but keep going.
Number 4, Zaki, purely emotional. Don't come at me. Fingers crossed there. And number 5, you know, I sort of flip and flop between like, is it who I think's the best horse right now or who I think's going to have the best spring?
Yeah.
And I think a horse that's going to have the best spring is Francesco Guardi.
Yeah.
So I'll put Francesco Guardi at number 5 because it's obviously just in at the moment getting runs for fitness, and I don't think their runs have been without merit. So we'll be in again, get another fitness ride this weekend at the Valley, and then get set for the Caulfield
time to get
Cup,
serious when they get to the longer distances.
Set for that Caulfield Cup. And the way she ran last year in the Moonee Valley Gold Cup, it's like...
Yeah, if it was in the Melbourne Cup, maybe wins.
Yeah, and they took it out because they said, still a little green, still maybe not furnished enough to go the 2 mile at the Group 1 handicap level, so pull out.
Who knows?
I like Francesco Guardi,
Your top 3 is the same as mine. So his top 5 didn't put I Wish I Win in, and he didn't put Amelia's Jewel. And we had a bit of an argument last night.
We've been fighting
got
tooth
nothing
and
to
nail.
prove, and I said I compared it to Arcadia Queen a little bit with Arcadia Queen won easily over in Western Australia, came down to Melbourne, won. I'm pretty sure she won a Group 1 as well. Or he won a Group 1.
Like she broke the hoodoo, but my argument is, like you said, not many, like, because WA's chalk and cheese, completely different. So I'm happy to put her in top 5 as soon as the spring ends and she's come over and obliterated them.
My argument is she's won over there like comfortably, like better than Arcadia Queen won when she was over there. And then coming to Melbourne, I think you just have to put her in there. I think she's going to have an awesome spring, I reckon.
Again, if you like the romance of it, you love the idea of Amelia's Jewel coming over and being super competitive.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love it, but like until it happens, I just like I said, and when I said who's going to have a poor spring compared to what everyone thinks, I said Amelia's Jewel purely because like I feel like she'll just run into one better. Like our fangirl had to deal with Animo her whole career, and now finally gets clean air, probably going to have a massive spring.
Yeah,
I think Amelia's Jewel is going to get stuck in a lot of those races where she's running into Fangirl or running into Mr. Brightside or running into I Wish I Win.
I can see your thought pattern there. It'd be interesting to see how they all line up because I've got no idea about like final destinations for them either. Like, have they said Golden Eagle definitely for Amelia's Jewel?
They've said it's Cox or not Cox or Melbourne Cup, Cox or Golden Eagle, depending on the first few runs. Yeah. It's similar how probably I think Cox, Waller said, same with Kovalica. Like we'll see if it's Golden or Cox depending on the first few runs, see how sharp he is.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that's my theory. I'm happy to be wrong. I'm very happy to be wrong, but that's currently what I'm sitting at. Because I had Without a Fight in my top 5.
Yeah, right. Because I can't argue with that. Like, good horse.
Yeah.
Set for the Caulfield Cup, they've said.
Yeah. I think he'll be very, very competitive. Because I was on him in the Melbourne Cup and then it rained and went to shit. But if he gets dry tracks, I think he'll explode.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Is there anything else you want to ask about horse racing?
Any futures bets you have on now? Or?
Yeah, I've got one. I've got Wolfie for the Caulfield Guineas.
Wolfie,
yeah. He's 2 starts, second in both. One behind Shiva, and I can't remember who he ran second to in the first. But real talented and has had like no luck. The first start ran on from like dead last and was storming home. Looked really good. Second start behind Shiva led and it was just so young and green. Second start, like when it was in front, had no one to follow, nowhere to go, so it just carried on, moved around, popped its head. And I really liked the way it galloped. So I'm on Wolfie, not in a big way, but I've got it at 101 for the
fair.
Guineas.
Very nice.
There's nothing else.
Hopefully it pulls off.
And obviously Francesco Guardi. I can't take $11 now.
No, a lot of water to go under the bridge before a Caulfield or a Melbourne Cup.
To happen. And I think if you're going to have a bet in a futures market, find something you like in the Cox Plate because I think Romantic Warriors Hong Kong form might be a little overrated. The more I've looked into it, and Zach Purton said the same on a podcast the other day. He said he doesn't think that Romantic Warrior form is as strong as people believe it is. So, and he's coming over to ride light infantry, and we've got some 3-year-olds that could be pretty exciting and stuff as well. So
I'm on Osmosis in the Cornwall. That's the only futures I've got.
You boys love Osmosis.
Big on Osmosis.
He loves Osmosis.
Spotted him we're going to the trials in a couple of weeks, the first 2-year-old trials.
Right.
Last year, spotted it, went, fuck. This guy's quick. Like, I know it was...
I backed it when you boys were spruiking it.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, good pick.
Like, I know he was riding it out, and, like, Rachel King was riding it out more than the others were, but I still thought, fuck, he's very quick. I think he can get it done. And then when we spruiked it, I had half people going, fuck yeah, we got up. And then the others were going, you're a dickhead. You got $1.60 shot. Good on you. But,
well, the thing is, you tipped five winners at $2.
Yeah.
And people are like, you just pick favourites, fuck off.
But they won.
Yeah. Somebody picked one thing running at $17 or something, and you're like a hero. And
100%.
Like when I was spruiking Dunkel.
Yeah, Dunkel.
Dunkel, right?
Yeah.
It was like, to be fair, that one I had some people win real big cash, like in excess of 50 grand on that.
Oh, jeez.
So that was like a rare one. But when I was spruiking Dunkel, and people are like, fuck, he's picked Dunkel, it was 17 to 1. And they crunched it in. It ended up on the tote, it was like $5.
Yeah.
And then it won impressively. But like, well, people forget about that pretty quick, and they're like, you're fucking tipping favourites. Yeah, they're favourites for a reason.
Yeah.
It's a game of opinion. I love it, but you hate it. Everyone's going to have a different opinion if you're in racing.
Do you own any horses? Do you own any?
No, I'm hoping to get one soon. There's a couple of exciting young ones I've got my eye on, but until I can get a house and have a lot of that
fair enough.
with my partner, I don't think it's going to be
priorities.
Nah, fair enough.
Hey babe, we've been broke for 7 years. We've
got a horse.
We've just got a little bit of money, and I've put it into a horse. And
that house you wanted, we've got a horse.
And we've got to pay training fees, and it might be shit. So
it's your fault for letting me go to the Magic Million sale.
This is a bad investment. So again, it's the same as the ownership with the horses. I look at it the same way where I'm gambling. It's like it's an entertainment thing for me. It's not an investment, and until I have some assets and some solidarity in that, I won't be buying.
That's what my uncle says. He's like, you buy it for fun. You don't buy it so you need them to win. Otherwise, you're going broke.
100%.
Yeah. We'll move into the footy now. Big Swanee supporter. Seen a lot of back and forth with you and the Lizard as well. He's how'd that come about? South Melbourne boy? Or?
Yeah, so some of my family, the Morwood boys, played for South Melbourne back in when they were still based in Melbourne, and then when they moved to Sydney, they all came up here, and then Shane ended up going to Collingwood, and Paul came back down to St Kilda. Tony was the only one who stayed, and he ended up being in the Swans team of the century, and being the team manager for the Swans, and he managed their Melbourne operation for the whole time. So there's kind of a family connection there.
Yeah.
And my best friend Lockie, his old man Mick, played for the Swans. So when I was at that age where you start to start to pick your own team, like 5, 6, I was like, well, my best friend goes to the Swans. His dad played,
it's pretty cool.
His family, so bang, Swans.
Yeah.
And then it was like, how good was timing? Broke the longest drought in premiership history in 05, and I was there. My dad took me.
Wow.
It was just
crazy.
Brilliant. And then, I've just been in love with him since, and try and get around the boys like Blizzard and Paps and Heaney and that, so it's good. Yeah,
nice. What do you reckon this year? How do you reckon, obviously...
They got Carlton this week.
Yeah, Carlton not tomorrow night. So
it's hard to be upset with anything as a Swan supporter. I feel like we're so blessed. Like,
I agree.
We have a shit year, and like people complain about their teams having a shit year. Swans have a shit year, and I'm like, no, we'll be back. We'll be back next year.
Yeah.
Such a good culture, and you never have that like dire straits feel that like these Carltons and these Essendons and stuff where they just feel like their club's just a rubble. Like, what are we gonna do? I just never feel like that with the Swans. So. Look, we've got so many fucking good young players.
Oh, 100%.
Unbelievable 100%. Young players.
Best youngest in the comp by a mile.
The culture's still really good, like the Bloods culture and everything. I like the way the team talks about footy and the way they talk about each other and stuff. So, love it. And I think if we win against Carlton, I think that probably exceeds expectations.
100%.
If we lose against Carlton, I think we probably sit just below expectations for the season. But with the injuries we had and stuff like that, I think you can't hate on it.
Yeah.
So I'll enjoy the game and just sit back.
I think anything's a positive after the granny, because the trend, that happens in the granny, usually right to the bottom.
Yeah.
But you bounce back. You made finals the year after. It doesn't happen often, so everything's a bonus from here, I'd say.
Yeah. So that granny, that was the week I was in. So I fought on September 27 on Contender Series to get into the UFC.
Yeah.
It's like biggest week of my life, and I'm sitting there with the laptop watching the footy on like a Saturday night, because you fight on a Tuesday night for Contender Series.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there and at halftime just going.
Yeah, me and my brother at the game, and we went to Mooney Valley the night before. We had a pretty big night at the Manikato.
Yeah.
And then Coolangatta. We back.
Not the Manikato.
Oh no, the Moya State.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. And we were like, all right, we won't drink any piss for this game. Like up there, got to quarter time. I'm like, all right, like we'll be all right. Got halfway through the second quarter. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go get some beers, bro. And we had. Because we actually got really lucky. We bought tickets maybe like
4 months out, wasn't it?
like 2 months or 3 months out.
Right.
Going, we've never been to a grand final. We'll just go to a grand final. We're at the prelim. Swans make the final. We're like, holy fuck. We're like on the goal line of the prelim where like they rushed that point.
Right.
And I'm screaming at Jake Lloyd going, there's fucking 3 seconds left, bro. There's 3 seconds left. And then we make the grand final. And then, didn't have that fairy tale ending, but
not at all. Even a good game, you still enjoy the atmosphere, but that game was like fucking hard to watch.
Nah, 100%. I thought at half time we had big voice like, oh, maybe we're a sniff, but it just didn't end up going how we wanted to.
Wasn't looking good.
But I just don't understand the chat this year with Swans going about how shit they're going. We had so many close games, got a bit obviously so unlucky with injuries. We would have come top 4 if all those little things come like.
Hey, you can say that about the Bulldogs as well, but then we lost to West Coast, so
we didn't lose to West Coast. We've got 200 points against them, mate.
Yeah.
So, but like that's what I'm saying. It's like all this hate against Sydney at the moment because of the Crows incident as well.
Yeah.
It's not our fault.
Yeah. What do we do about it? So.
We can't do anything about it. Like we're not complaining. No.
Absolutely.
But
last couple of questions.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'll probably have to head off soon. So.
Yeah, no worries. We do it with every single one. Last question is, what's next? Like we talked about earlier, it's no if, buts, and maybe. It's only absolute. So win this weekend. What's next for Jack Jenkins?
I'm going to New Zealand for a couple of weeks.
Lovely.
Yeah. Going to relax before the spring carnival. Like I said, my partner Britt been with me since my first fight, essentially, or maybe second fight or third. But being there all along, and over the time, never been on one holiday together, really.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't training or something. So said after this one, all right, we'll go to New Zealand for a couple of weeks. So won't think past Chepe, but I don't see myself doing anything other than sort of relaxing.
Nah, well deserved.
Put the hair down,
100%. It's a long time coming for you, so
sure.
That'll be nice. All right, mate. Well, really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, mate.
Thank you.
So, thanks, guys.
Alrighty guys, that's the interview done and dusted. Another massive thank you to Jack for fitting us in his very, very busy schedule. We hope you liked it. If you did, make sure to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, wherever you're listening. We really do appreciate the support as we continue to get bigger and better with every single episode. Big thank you to our sponsors at Stridyl as well for making it all happen. Head to stridyl.com now to check out some ripping horse racing content over on their side. But above all else, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.